Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Today we're going to be talking about the moments where you unintentionally speedran the campaign. So leave it in the comments below. When have you done that? So, only derailed or speedran another PC storyline, and then it spiraled the entire plot. Dun dun! We were playing Rime of the Frost Maiden, Idiots on Ice. Jesus Christ. And I was a Harangon genie warlock. Now, our paladin, a naive kobold, had started to act strange. Now, he was always strange, we all were, but this was weirder. As the only character with decent wisdom and knowledge in the arcane, I had observed his growing obsession with his axe. After an incident involving evil dwarves, I asked him to put the axe down. He did not, so I cast Remove Curse. My DM told me to make an Arcana check. 21 with bonuses. Everything went to shit. Nearly the entire party was dragged into the scuffle as the axe, the axe itself, tried to lop our heads off. We were finally able to grapple him between me, the cleric, and the wizard, and I used Remove Curse yet again. Let's just say, each of us found ourselves within the paladin's soul space with a representation of his personality and inner soul chained up. Cleric and wizard essentially piggybacking on me as I was the conduit and helping break the chains as a screaming Levistus was saying, "Give in! Your soul is mine!" The wizard ended up dying, and to fully disconnect the paladin from Levistus, we needed to remove his hand. End of the session. My DM was both pissed and relieved that I had caught on to the paladin storyline, not meant to be touched for another 10 or so sessions, and practically blew it open. The axe was a homebrew item that had been stolen and repurposed by agents of Levistus to act as a conduit. The more lives it took, the greater the connection, until finally there would be nothing left of the paladin's soul. He had killed 12 out of 30 enemies since, well, he had the axe, and was in the early stages of personality crushing. Much farther along than the DM thought. He was pissed I blew it open, but glad I stopped one of the PCs from falling further into depravity. I had cucked the storyline just as it was starting to gain some steam, though. And before you rules lawyers say, "That's not how Remove Curse works, I'm gonna get you in trouble!" Believe me, we know. Our group occasionally plays loose with magical rules, hence the Arcana check to see if I had the magical chops to pull it off. Hey, little improv never hurt nobody. DM here. I had a whole 3 to 4 sessions planned of my players being on a pirate ship, sailing the seas, yar har, etc. After which they'd get the artifact they need. But on a nat 20 perception, they saw the artifact. One of them took it, and they fought the captain and a few pirates. This was a 1-session game instead of 3 to 4. Just moments ago, as of typing this, we accidentally cut the campaign's runtime in half by essentially killing the big bad evil guy. Somewhat spoilers for Ice Spire Peak. Be warned, warning, Ice Spire Peak spoilers potentially. Good? Okay. As a bit of an explanation, we are all basically new to D&D, including the DM, and for some reason along the way of this campaign, we got our hands on a deck of many things. This cannot go anywhere but bad. We didn't use it much, but the few times we did use it, it was pretty crazy. It bumped us all up from level 4 to level 6, it got rid of my singular magic hat, completely stripped another player's gear, and also killed my character in the session before this one. My character was technically 2 characters in one, so I still had a character, it was just a different class. Anyways, this last session we had to go clear out this shrine, and it was going along smoothly before the big bad, a dragon, swoops in by chance, randomly, and demands us give him treasure in exchange for him leaving without slaughtering too many of us. Well, we had the bright idea to have the dragon pull some cards from the deck of many things, mostly as a joke, but kinda as a what if it happened lol situation. First card. Bumps his strength score up to 20. That's not good. Second card. Exact same card. Bumps his constitution to 20. At this point, we're laughing because of how poorly this is going. The dragon gets convinced to draw yet another card, which ends up sending a demon after him to kill him. The dragon, of course, has no clue what happens and assumes it does nothing. "Oh, try again. You must have gotten a bad card," we say. The dragon, being a greedy thing, decides, "Sure, why not?" and pulls a card. The Don John card. The dragon just vanishes before our very eyes, going to another plane of existence, leaving all of the ogres and orcs confused. We won? I guess? Probably one of the least climactic endings in D&D history. Yeah, it wasn't too exciting, but that's the heart of the cards for you. Now, what in the hell was the DM thinking, giving level 4 players a deck of many things? Was he trying to TPK the party? In our first session, my party's DM explains that the first 10 or so sessions will be dedicated to a sort of prologue. The prologue was supposed to introduce us to the overall story of the campaign, and it would give our characters time to bond. My character, named Charlie, was a little gnome barbarian, path of wild magic. When making my character, my DM told me that Charlie had a special connection to the ley lines. The ley lines were physical rivers of magic flowing beneath the ground. I didn't think that would affect my character much, so I said, hey, that worked with me. Cut back to the first session. Our party travels to the largest city on the continent. Rumors of strange earthquakes beneath the city had set the local Adventurers Guild on alert, and we were tasked with finding the source of the quakes. While looking for clues, our party was approached by a mysterious old man who turned out to be a god. After explaining that there was little time to spare, he led us down into the city sewers. It was there we discovered an ancient temple, and inside of it is a glowing interdimensional rift. Aberrations began pouring out of it, and the fight commenced. The druid in our party attempted to close the rift, while the rest of us held back the aberrations. Being a barbarian, Charlie decided to rage. As a wild magic barbarian, when you rage, you roll a d8 on the special effects table. A random effect happens, but they are pretty tame at low level. So I was surprised when my DM made me roll a d100 for my rage. I corrected him, saying it was only a d8, but he said to roll the d100. Well, little did I know the ancient temple was built on a ley line, and thus gave Charlie enhanced magical abilities. I rolled the d100. I got a 100. Ooh, that got shivery real quick. The DM looked down at his custom table, then said, "Oh shit, that's never a good thing." When Charlie raged, an anti-magic field began emanating from him. Our druid, who had been easily making low DC Constitution saves to keep the rift closed, was suddenly powerless. The rift instantly filled the room, and we were all knocked unconscious. When our characters did wake up, it had been a week since we had fought in the temple. Now the entire city was levitating miles above the ground, and a giant rift was growing in the sky. The DM sighed and said, "Well, so much for the prologue. Wait a minute, an anti-magic field? Wouldn't that have just kind of ruined the rift altogether, or am I just imagining things a little bit here?" In session 1, I figured out the DM's Expedition to the New World campaign was a tricked into colonizing the New World campaign, and figured my evil wizard character would also figure this out. So when session 3 rolled around and some natives were attacked, my character pointed out the fact that when you colonize a place, you attack the natives. Turns out, I was the only one who put 2 and 2 together. This was the DM's plan, but he hoped we wouldn't figure it out until session 20. Oh my. The campaign ended at session 5 because he couldn't reorganize the story. Oops. So in response to this, someone actually asked, why couldn't he? I don't know the context, but there is so much that could have been done. Imagine being there when Hernan Cortez set out to conquer the Aztec Empire. The original plan, at least the one laid out to the investors of the expedition, was to get gold and come back rich. When Hernan, or maybe his officials, since it's proven Hernan himself was a bit of a moron and easily manipulated, began expanding the scope of the expedition into colonization and conquest, a lot of messy politicking began. There are so many chances for roleplay. Maybe good-oriented characters would struggle between the dubious morality of the conquest and the cruel indigenous traditions and religion. Whereas, on the flip side, evil-leaning characters could begin trying to exploit the expedition for their own ends. carefully finding out the political situation behind the conquest. Fun fact, Hernan Cortez had absolutely no authority for anything he did, and taking advantage of it to earn land, riches, or power of any kind. Alliances made and broken, betrayals, scheming, and of course, many interesting battles and situations the characters could land themselves in or on. It's such a fun concept, and finding out early on you're not just here to find gold and draw maps adds to it. Makes me want to start a campaign like that with my players if I'm being honest. Also, still, I don't know the context, but colonization wasn't always so bloody. The Greek, for example, set up colonies all over the Mediterranean and simply traded with the cultures from the different regions rather than conquering them. Depending on the lore of your DM's world, you could have been metagaming. How did your character know what colonization was? What led them to believe killing the locals was what you had to do to establish colonies? Funny enough, the original poster responded. My character figured out it was a colonization thing because the DM introduced the Queen as this ruthless ruler who openly has her guards kill or disintegrate those who oppose her. What we were told in character was that the kingdom needed to expand, and seeing as the Queen wears skulls and has people killed on a whim, I figured this wasn't going to be a friendly expansion. And since we were the ones expanding, there wouldn't be room for the natives to live. We had plans to counter the Queen and push the kingdom out of the New World after my character spilled the beans. My plan was to manipulate the expedition, to fool the Queen into thinking everything is going as planned, while we outfitted the natives with the weapons and supplies we started getting. There was also a vampire we were working with, whom I had planned to put in some sort of authority over the other members of the expedition we couldn't convince to join our side. And I think another player had plans to forge maps to confuse any more people the Queen would send. Why couldn't he reorganize the story, you might wonder? Well, I don't know. That's just what he said was the reason he was ending it. It was his first time DMing, so I think it was just difficult for him to improvise. I didn't know about the Greeks, by the way. You learn something new every day. I hope if you run a similar game, your group has fun. My group had a good time until the end. And as a final response, poor guy. Oftentimes new DMs overprepare. Probably had a bit of a panic attack when he saw how much of what he had planned couldn't be used. It's often better to just have the gist of the overarching plot and the next session planned. Players always find ways to get off rails, and you don't want a novel's worth of preparation to go down the drain. Not to mention how incredible it is to make the story as it goes, if you're up to the task, of course. Hope you kept trying. It's all a matter of practice. What a hell of a response we got. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below, how did you speedrun your campaign or unintentionally break it potentially? We want to know. I love you all. Please be safe, happy, healthy, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.